Greetings Internet, DDA here, and welcome to another Star Wars Unlimited deck profile video that we have bringing to you. If you've been following my channel and decks since the release of Star Wars Unlimited, you know that set 2 and on, I have been tinkering with equipment-based decks, specifically the Mandalorian. I love the Mandalorian show, and I also have grown to love the Mandalorian leader in this card game because it offers sort of a tall style of play while giving you a level of control that you don't get with other leaders while pushing damage. It puts him in this aggressive mid-range playstyle, and to be honest with you, I had considered playing this iteration, and I have already had this double yellow Mandalorian deck built. For set 3, I actually considered playing it competitively. However, I didn't really like the Han yellow matchup. I felt like Han yellow was doing similar things as to Mando yellow, and Han yellow just kind of did it better with the whole tech DJ business that he has going on. But assuming that they are going to squash the tech DJ combo going into set 4, and with the release of pilots and the new Mandalorian unit that is coming out, that is going to solve so many issues for the deck archetype, this deck surely, if it's not tier 1 now, will definitely be tier 1 in set 4. So get yourself started and get your jetpack warmed up to fly and soar into set 4 with this tier 1 deck. I have a lot of experience with the Mandalorian and double yellow Mandalorian, so just looking at the cards, I know that it is going to be a powerhouse in set 4. Let's get into the list. So now, talking about the list briefly, one of the common things that have been discussed with the Mandalorian is what color is best for the Mandalorian. That's always a question. I've dabbled in blue, I've considered red, and then now with this double yellow, I think I can definitively answer that question. What is the best color for the Mandalorian? I think it is double yellow. And the reason is because the Mandalorian kind of promotes you to play this tall upgrade style of play, and then the tall upgrade style of play is punished by control decks. Control decks have always been a bane of the Mandalorian. Power of the Dark Side, Merciless Contest, Takedown, etc., etc., Fell the Dragon. All of these cards are just so good against the Mandalorian, and double punishing yourself, keeping units on the board is really, really tough sometimes. So what double yellow does to combat that matchup is it gives you the control cards in your units, namely Cantina Bouncer and Bodhi Rook. The intricate balance between events and upgrades in your deck is always difficult. It's like, can you play Waylay? Well, it's hard to play Waylay when you kind of have to run 12 to 14 upgrades in your deck to make use of Mandalorian power. Things like that. So you get the Cantina Bouncer to fill in for Waylay for you. You get the Bodhi Rooks to fill in for Spark of Rebellion. You get the Kiras, of course. And then, so yeah, it's just really what it comes down to is the double yellow give you control within units that allow you to build up your units while simultaneously filling the role of events like Waylay and Spark of Rebellion. So getting into the list here, I'm going to do this video a little differently. I'm going to first talk about the units and then talk about the upgrades and events alone, because I think the upgrades and events are just so important that I wanted to separate them out rather than talking about the stage of the game. This is a low to the ground mid-range deck. Your goal with this deck will be to push heavy aggression into the base, use your exhausting leader ability to slow the opponent's damage and control of your own units while you are simultaneously pushing base damage yourself. And to start out here, our first unit that we're going to talk about to discuss the new cards that are coming out in set 4, that is the new R2, not the old R2, the new R2 that is coming out, the Awoo. That R2 is going to solve two distinct issues for the deck. The first is, again, I mentioned in the beginning, Power of the Dark Side, Merciless Contest. They're Bane cards for the deck. So you definitely want units in the deck to go wide. And this one cost R2 will be a great card to help us do that. So the reason that the new R2 is going to be so great for this deck is you are going to use every single inch of that simple card in this deck. The 1/4 for 1 is great because sometimes you do want to go wide with this deck. We can utilize the 1/4s by upgrading them and making them much stronger. Likewise, its pilot is 0 cost. And if you played a lot of the Mandalorian, you know that 1 cost and 0 cost upgrades are incredibly powerful in the Mandalorian because they allow you to exhaust a unit while also simultaneously developing your own board by saving you resources. So you still have 2 or 3 resources up so you can play a good strong unit. And the R2 pilot is going to help you do that. Because you can say drop a Falcon and then going into the next turn do the 0 cost upgrade, exhaust one of their leaders, exhaust one of their units, make Falcon a 4/5, and then likewise still have 4 resources for, say, Akira or another upgrade. Maybe you even want to double down on upgrades, and that's the other thing that the Awoo R2 does for you. It allows you to play 2 pilots on a vehicle. So you can play this pilot. The current iteration, now of course all the cards have not been revealed. The current iteration of this deck runs 5 pilots and 12 upgrades. I think that's a good number. I think there's going to be a balance between the upgrades and the pilots that you want to run in the deck. There's a limited number of vehicles in this deck, so I wanted to keep it simple at 5 pilots, but also make sure that the pilots that we do play are excellent units in their own right so that we don't really need to pilot them, but we can pilot them in certain situations. And R2 is a great example of that. I can even see this guy maybe even at 3 in the deck if the deck ends up playing more vehicles, but for now he's at 2. Next up we have Leia, who again fills 2 roles for the deck. If you played a lot of Mandalorian, you know that it is difficult for you to exhaust some units, especially if you're playing some of the tall Force decks, the tall strategy Force decks like Anakin, Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker, things like that. Any deck that's going to focus on upgrading their leader or making them really tall, getting you out of the HP threshold for the exhausting. Well, Leia is going to come in for you and fill in the role of Mando in those matchups. And then also, she's going to also enable you in the control matchup again to help you go wide. So, turn 1, you could do an R2 Leia play, go wide against the control decks to kind of establish a foothold against the Merciless Contest, Perilous Positions, the Power of the Dark Sides, all that good stuff. So Leia is definitely in here to fill a hole in the deck of exhausting big units and then also go wide. It would not be a yellow hero deck without 3 of the new Republic R2s. We are filled to the brim with R2 in this deck. This guy is a powerhouse. The 4 HP helps with equipment upgrade decks as well as giving you consistency, choosing whether you want units or upgrades in your hand to push damage. The shielded 2/2s are very strong when you upgrade them. So, of course, we are running the full suite of 6 2/2 shielded units to fill out our turn 1 plays. They are incredibly powerful with upgrades. Put a hot shot blaster, put a Mandalorian rifle, put any upgrade that you want on this guy, and just own the field. Be able to play control or be able to just push in damage free of charge with that shield. Now moving on to our more mid-game plays, we are running 2 Liberated Slaves and 1 tech. I opted to trade a Liberated Slaves instead of running the 3 Liberated Slaves for a single tech. I'm building this deck with the assumption that DJ is banned in set 4. So that's why I'm not filling out Tech DJ in here. The set 3 version of this deck ran Tech DJ, which of course is great to get out Mandalorian a turn early. He doesn't use it as good as Han does, but still powerful nonetheless. But in this version, assuming DJ is banned, we are running the 2 Liberated Slaves and the 1 Tech. You could go with the 3 Liberated if you wanted to play more aggressive, but I like the 1 Tech in here just for that late game, because this deck has a lot of tricks. Like, for example, you could Snapshot for 3, you could Snapshot Reflexes for 3, really strong there. Mandalorian Rifle would be excellent for 5, as long as you put it on Mando. There's a lot of tricks you can do, and so I'm liking the 1 Tech for now. We'll see how it works out. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier, the whole reason we're running double yellow is because we have to go light on events. We can't play Spark of Rebellion main or Waylay main, so we are running the 3 Bodhi Rooks in here to make up for not running Spark of Rebellion main, and that is key to our strategy, being able to play a unit, take out that Power of the Dark Side, take out that Rival's Fall or Fell the Dragon, and push in. Of course, we are running 3 Millennium Falcons. This guy is a premium in an aggro deck. Of course, it's also a premium when you have piloting upgrades. Throw the Mandalorian on this guy. Just become a powerhouse. Push in the final damage that you need to end the game. And then, of course, we are running 2 Kiras. Another card that goes along with Bodhi to help out your control going into the mid-game. And going into the Mandalorian flip, of course, playing Kira on the flip turn is always advised. Either playing a Bodhi or a Kira on the flip turn is what I usually like to do, just to make your deploy a little safer. If you stick Mando, you usually win, especially with Mandalorian Rifle. So just keep that in mind, and that's the reason for the Kira. And then, as mentioned earlier, we are not running Waylay, and we are running Cantina Bouncer in its place. Bounce a unit, put on a big booty unit on the board, upgrade it, and push into the base. Cantina Bouncer has been an unsung hero of the deck in the mid and late game, especially the late game to answer the late game units. The control decks love tapping out for their Crate Dragons and for their Avengers and whatnot. Bounce that unit, give yourself another turn to push in for the win. Now, of course, DJ hopefully will be banned, I'm assuming, but a easy replacement in this deck is the new Mandalorian unit that will be released soon. The new Mandalorian unit is just kind of telling you that double yellow is the home for Mando. One of the difficulties with the Mandalorian deck is you always had trouble using the Mandalorian Rifle. The blue Mandalorian unit was not good enough to play. It was too slow and too easily answered by so much in the game right now. However, the new Mandalorian unit is very, very strong. For 5, you're going to get a double exhaust, or you can pilot it and exhaust something in space, and then additionally exhaust something in ground because of the Mandalorian ability. There are so many things that the new Mandalorian unit is going to do. It's a powerhouse, and the simple fact that you're going to be able to put the Mandalorian Rifle on this new Mandalorian unit is going to add so much consistency to this deck. I am wagering that most often you're not going to be piloting the Mandalorian. However, in certain matchups you might, like for example the Triple Dark Raid decks, the Mandalorian pilot will be an excellent answer to Triple Dark Raid. There's other things that you can do, but I think that just playing him as a unit is going to be most often. He's going to answer leaders. Like, they'll deploy their leader, you'll exhaust their leader, and then put this big booty on the board. And then, just be able to push in damage. It's going to be an excellent card. Great time for Mando, and this deck is going to be a Tier 1 monster in the new set. Of course, being that pilots are so important, we are also running 2 of the Set 2 Millennium Falcon, a great card for aggro and consistency with the smuggle. Has ambush, so it can answer some space units in space. And then likewise, again, the piloting. Put R2 on this guy, make him a 6/6. Answers Fet's Fire Spray. Easy mode answer to Fet's Fire Spray there. Yeah, mainly in here for the consistency and the piloting. I want to see some better space units before I fully commit to the piloting in this deck. I've been talking to some of my locals. I've been talking to my friend Dave about Mandalorian. He loves the Mandalorian, likewise with me. And he wants to focus more on piloting. I need to see more space units in the double yellow before I commit more to piloting in this version of the deck. Right now, I'm seeing not enough good space. So we had the 5 space, the 5 pilots, but most of the pilots are great units and will be played as units. And then closing out our units, our late game is Enfys Nest. If you think Enfys Nest is good in double yellow Han, how about a deck that focuses even more on upgrading than double yellow Han does? Put Jetpack on Enfys Nest and just run in Hot Shot Jetpack, Snapshot, Hot Shot. Just throw the Mandalorian Rifle and bounce anything you want in the game with Enfys Nest. Just very, very strong card. Very, very strong with upgrades, so a perfect card in this deck. And that is the units. Now going into the upgrades and events. Of course, the Smuggle upgrades are premium. Hotshot Blaster is just like S+ in this deck. Like, Hotshot Blaster is an S card alone, like without a tap added to it. But the fact that we can not only smuggle this Hotshot, 5 to base, but also we're exhausting a unit. It's just crazy strong. This is a card that you would definitely play 6 in the deck if you could. But the Smuggle upgrades in general are really at a premium because they give you card advantage. And Jetpack is a great example of that. Jetpack has become one of my favorite upgrades. You see it sprinkled in some Han Yellow lists as well. Some Han Yellow lists are running 2 Jetpack. And that is because the temporary shield gives you so many options for both aggressive and defensive play. Like, it's not just an aggressive card. It's a defensive card too. It saves you from ambush attacks. Like, it allows you to push in more damage, saving you from ambush. It allows you to play control on the board if you want to just use that shield to just run into a unit free of charge. Jetpack does so many things for you, and the fact that it gives you card advantage with Smuggle just makes it perfect as a 3-of in this deck. And then Snapshot Reflexes is one of Mando's best tempo cards. 1 cost means you can double down on the plays very often with this card. Get that damage in, exhaust a unit. It can go on Space, it can go on Falcon. Both Falcons, just very, very excellent card. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I was running 2 Mandalorian Rifles in the main deck. Actually, I upped it to 3. I think the Mandalorian Rifle is a blowout card in this deck. It's huge. The fact that we're getting a new Mandalorian unit just means that it's going to be just one of the best cards in the deck. Answer every single late game unit. Like, there is no late game unit that can be played. Like, this is a perfect answer to any late game unit. It's just crazy strong. And we are going to be seeing, I'm telling you, we are going to be seeing the Mandalorian come really hard into the top meta in set 4 for sure. And then closing out the events. The only event that we run in the deck. We are double yellow, so you know the only event we're going to run is Cunning. Cunning, standalone card. Could we work in Spark of Rebellion in the main? Yes. And I've played versions with Spark main. I've played versions with, I've tried Final Showdown main. I've played versions with different events main. And I always kind of end up cutting them because I just want to push in aggro. I just want to push the issue, play more upgrades, play more units, and just push in. Cunning helps you do that. I think the non-units in this deck are pretty where I want to see them. It's a little low on upgrades for me because it's helping. It's being like we're adding the pilots in and seeing where they fall in set 4. So expect to see some adjustments of this deck. This is my starting point for set 4. This may even be my main deck in set 4, because it was almost my main deck in set 3. I just didn't like the Han matchup. But going into the sideboard, briefly, I'm just going to briefly talk about why we play Confiscate over Bamboozle. Confiscate, of course, is for Traitorous. That's it. We would play Bamboozle in here. I can't justify playing both Confiscate and Bamboozle, but Confiscate is in here over Bamboozle because of Traitorous. We are upgrading our 3-cost units. The whole deck is based on upgrades. So if we get Traitorous, or them just simply having Traitorous, kind of shoehorns our deck. Like, it really puts shackles on our deck. So we want the Confiscate to be able to play around the Traitorous and punish them for trying to Traitorous our upgraded units. We are also running 2 Shadowed Intentions for the control matchup. Will really, really help the control matchup. And likewise, 2 Spark of Rebellions for the control. Most of our sideboard is dedicated to control. We have 2 Sparks, the Change of Heart for control. And then, of course, when you play against control, you're going to drop a lot of your upgrades. I usually only keep the Smuggle upgrades in, just because they help with card advantage against the control decks. But you want to put in your events against the control decks. We have 2 Han Solos just to help the top end out a little bit, help answer Snoke. And then the single final showdown to help against the aggro decks or the mid-range tempo decks to kind of just randomly win the game after they claim. Has been awesome. So, yeah, like I'm saying, this deck is... If it's not Tier 1 now, it's Tier 1 in Set 4. I think there's no question. We'll be seeing him pop up a lot. The new Mandalorian unit is crazy. The fact that it taps down leaders, which always has been a problem for Mando, to tap down leaders. It's huge. It fills so many holes in the deck, and we're just going to be seeing this guy punch in and fly into Set 4 as a force. So if you like this video, and if you like The Mandalorian and off-meta builds, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe for all the best deck profile videos and gaming guides and content. And as always, turn your dial to Random Number Gaming.